Did you know that your body has its very own 24/7 security system? Every entry point has armed guards marking, tagging, allowing or destroying elements that try to enter your body. From the air we breathe to the foods we eat, everything must pass a security checkpoint to be allowed inside. The primary security checkpoints to the human body are the mouth, the nose, and the skin. Think of it as a metal detector of the body. Each entry point has its own police division, just like TSA at the airport. Each one of these specific security systems attempt to prevent harmful passengers from getting on board. Now, these guys sound the alarm and they alert the body's immune system once an invader has been detected. When the body's police force responds, they rush to the area of concern to inspect the intruder. Now, after interviewing witnesses, some pretty intense interrogation, the immune system wraps up its lengthy investigation in microseconds by coding and marking the intruder. It then processes that information it learned from the investigation and forms immunity for future reference. So if a foreign substance tries to pass through and it's recognized unfriendly to the body, and just like our first responders, your body's police force, the immune system, and the security agents, the epithelial tissue, work 24/7 while you're awake and while you sleep, protecting you and defending you against viral invaders. Now, the problem starts when the immune system responds to these foreign invaders and causes the membranes to become inflamed, making them irritated like a sunburn. And the immune system starts responding to all kinds of substances, which may even include some of our most frequently eaten foods. Even the foods that are considered healthy can cause pain and inflammation. So once the gateway membranes inflame, they can produce sinus problems, joint and systemic inflammation, and immune responses that can lead to all kinds of chronic pain syndromes. Keep watching, and I'll teach you what to do to stop and even reverse this process and help you to stop the pain. When you understand the gateways to the body, it can help you to better understand how our immune system works. So we look at different gateways like the mouth, the nose, and the skin. Why? Because that's how things are taken into the body. We absorb things through our skin. We breathe in and out of our airways. And we take food and drink inside of our mouth through that gateway. Remember, if I could follow that tube in the mouth all the way to the other end, it has a tissue in there called epithelial lining that's consistent from the mouth all the way down to the rectum. If I follow the nasal airways, epithelial tissues all the way back, all the way down through the lungs, even down into the alveoli, the little air sacs in the lungs. If I look at it on the skin, all the skin membranes are epithelial. Now, what does that mean? When you have these linings inside, these epithelial linings, there are little cells in there, watch this, called dendritic cells. And they're like little octopuses. They got little tentacles. And what they're doing, when you eat something, as it's going down the membranes, those little octopuses are feeling, and they're touching all the food. And they're kind of like little inspectors. And they're inspecting all the foodstuffs to see, is it stranger or is it danger? Should I keep it? Should I get rid of it? Now, if something's in there that doesn't belong there, it's foreign, it's not natural to the body, it sends a message to the immune system. That little messenger is called a cytokine. That's what he's called. He's a little protein messenger. And so he releases a cytokine. The cytokine goes over to the immune system and says, hey, there's somebody who doesn't belong over there in section B. So then the immune system comes over and grabs its army and goes over and starts dealing with whatever that toxin is to get rid of it, to kill it, take it hostage, whatever has to happen. Now that's going on 24/7, all day long, while you're just doing this thing called life. Now, if you understand, this is where I believe most sicknesses get their origination. It's things getting past this membrane or improper reporting. So when you eat something, that membrane with that alarm system, that 24-hour surveillance system, that's called, watch this, in the mouth, it's called the GALT, the gut-associated lymphatic tissue. In the nose, it's the nasal-associated lymphatic tissue. On the skin, it's the skin-associated lymphatic tissue, the GALT
the and the salt. See? So if you understand that all of these are immune, watch this, they're immune surveillance, then it would make you understand why some people have skin rashes. Some people have sinus problems, infections. Some people constantly have something wrong with their digestive system. Why? Because the body is sending cytokines from these areas to deal with some form of toxin. Now, what does that look like? Well, there's some foods that you become sensitive to. So you may have a cold. You may have the flu. And when you have that flu, you start getting a fever and all the immune system and the white blood cells are in there. What starts labeling flu virus, bad. Bacteria, bad. Whatever it sees that doesn't belong there, it starts labeling it, targeting it. So if the next time it sees it, it already has it in the computer system, do you see? So what happens is if you're ever doing that, if you're ever reporting, and let's say at the same time you have a cold, you may have a carrot that you just ate, some maybe carrots in the soup, and then that carrot got labeled like one of the bacteria or one of the virus. Now all of a sudden, the carrot's the bad guy. Well, I thought carrots were healthy. Well, carrots can be healthy unless you have a sensitivity toward them. Because the problem is now every time you get rid of the flu, 2 weeks later, you're over there and you cut up a carrot and you eat the carrot and all of a sudden you got flu symptoms again. Why? Because it labeled that carrot. Now you have a sensitivity and you're having an immune reaction to that carrot. How many times if you felt great, you said, man, I feel awesome. And then you eat and about 10 minutes later, you start feeling sluggish, start feeling tired, start sniffing, or you start coughing, and you literally get mucus. Has anyone ever had that happen? You start aching. And you think, oh, I must have got a hold of something like a bad bacteria or something. Maybe I got some spoiled mayonnaise. No, maybe you're having a sensitivity reaction, and maybe you need help. You see, a lot of these things are coming through the membranes. Now, it gets worse because if your gut gets inflamed, then your gut can't do the things it needs to do, and it starts releasing these if you will, immune reactions systemically. So you ache and you're in pain. So if you smell something, so no, I'm not eating, let's say I'm sensitive to corn. Now I quit eating corn, but then all of a sudden I'm in the barn and I'm out there sweeping and I'm sweeping the corn and I breathe the corn molecules. Next thing you know, I'm having a full-blown immune reaction. Now I've got a whole infection like the flu again and my head's infected from corn. Then it gets worse. Let's just say then you're shopping and you're in the grocery store and you're over in the produce section getting all the healthy foods and you reach over and grab a nice ear of corn. Now you've touched it and the salt, skin-associated lymphatic tissue, begins to report it to you. And it says stranger danger. Now all of a sudden you've got a reaction on your arm. People are living with these reactions all day long and they're taking all these medications to try to cover them up and antihistamines and all of these things when all you have to do is be able to identify the sensitivity. If you get rid of the sensitivity, you get rid of the immune response. In the book I walk you through, I show you how to do every bit of that and I teach you how to give your body the proper rest, what to put in your diet, what to take out of your diet. If you take those things out of your diet, you can live free from these sensitivities and you don't have to walk around sniffing, aching, tired, and in pain all of the time. When you learn how to repair the membranes, you learn how to fix the gateways. If you fix the gateways, you stop the pain.
An autoimmune disease is a disorder where your immune system begins attacking your own body. The immune system, like a defensive security system, normally guards against germs and bacteria like viruses. When it senses these foreign invaders, it sends out an army of fighter cells to attack and destroy them. Normally, the immune system can tell the difference between foreign invader cells versus your body's own cells. If you have an autoimmune disorder, it cannot. Autoimmune disease is like a civil war. The immune system mistakes parts of your body, like your joints, skin, or organs, as the enemy. It releases autoantibodies, a weaponized rebel army, to attack those healthy cells. These rogue immune cells attack something that is perfectly fine. This leads to a variety of symptoms: fatigue, achy muscles, hair loss, skin rashes, and the list goes on. More than 80 different autoimmune diseases exist, but they're masters of disguise. Often their symptoms overlap, so it makes them very hard to diagnose. The only way to pull the mask off is to perform blood tests doctors use to diagnose these conditions. But just because they're sneaky doesn't mean they're uncommon. For example, type 1 diabetes is a very common autoimmune disease that damages the pancreas. Hashimoto affects the thyroid. Other diseases like systemic lupus erythematosus affect the whole body. Unfortunately, autoimmune diseases are on the rise. Because of this, researchers suspect environmental factors like hidden infections and exposure of chemicals might also be the cause. In other words, lifestyle and environment have a profound effect on your health. Natural treatments are able to relieve the symptoms like pain, swelling, fatigue. However, the way to overcome autoimmune conditions is to find and eliminate the root causes. Give the system the nutrients and the compounds it needs to repair itself, and then allow time for the body to heal. Keep watching so you can learn how to reverse sickness and stop the pain. When you say autoimmune disease or autoimmune disorders, that means a lot of different things to different people. What I've found is when I say autoimmune, the most common understanding of that is, well, the immune system's attacking itself. It's attacking the body, and the poor body, it just doesn't know any better. It just attacks itself, and for some reason, it just, something's went haywire, and it's just made a decision to turn on itself. And although if you were looking at blood works and you were looking at what was taking on biochemically in the body, I can understand why people would come to that conclusion. But what I found is over the years through learning, through training, that we realize that the body isn't really attacking itself, it's attacking other things, and in the process, the body is also getting taken advantage of. What does that mean? You remember, like in Vietnam, there would just be a bunch of people, and unfortunately, many times they would drop a bomb or something like that, and that bomb wouldn't just get the bad guys, it would also get our guys. You see, so sometimes when the immune system's fighting something, it's fighting for a reason. Your immune system doesn't initiate unless there's a response. Remember, the body's reporting to the brain. And if it's reporting something, then the immune system's job is to do something about what it's reporting. There's something in the body that doesn't belong, so the body needs to go after it. The body needs to fight it. And so when it does, prolonged, year after year, week after week, then what happens is the other tissues also that those disease processes, if you will, are entwined in, those tissues also get labeled like those bad guys. And so the immune system then starts attacking those as well. So you've heard of things like lupus, or rheumatoid arthritis, or MS, or Hashimoto's thyroid. That's a real popular one out these days. So what's happening is anytime the antibodies are forming against a tissue, then that's how they name it. So if we're checking an RA, we look for an RA antigen, and then we call it rheumatoid. The symptoms between many times can be very close between that and, let's say, like a lupus patient. So we run an ANA, and we do a nuclear scan to see what the lupus test is. If it comes back positive, then we call it lupus. But who cares what we call it? The bottom line is, where's it coming from? So again, we can then take methotrexate, Plaquenil, steroids, all the different things we do. And listen, I'm not here in any way trying to stop good medical treatment, and there's a time and a purpose to do all of these things. But while we're controlling that initial presentation, maybe we should be doing something about the cause. Don't you think that would make sense? So what I've found over the years of study is that most of these come from hidden infections. There's an infection somewhere else. Like example, I live in the South, and any time in the, that southern area, when you're down there, it's just a moist, hot environment, okay? So that's very prolific for fungals. And funguses like to live in sinuses. Why? Because they're dark, moist, and damp. What a perfect place to culture. I would say probably the highest percentage of sinus infections are fungal, not bacteria. That's why so many times they don't respond to antibiotics. So then if you have a hidden infection, and I've seen people that have had hidden sinus infections that have no symptoms in the sinus. Yeah, you would think that they would just constantly have mucus. No, it's just cultured back there, but it's just enough to keep triggering an immune response.
until that immune response keeps just circulating in the whole system until it begins to spread and to migrate into other areas. Sometimes it can be a bad tooth and it can be hiding up in a tooth. Sometimes it can be hiding in the gut. I mean, you just have to hunt it and you have to find what's causing the hidden infection. If you find the hidden infection and you treat it, what do you suppose happens to the autoimmune condition? It has no reason to be there. So if you can get rid and find the hidden infection, then your body would stop, quote, attacking itself. So while you're doing the other things, people watching that happen to have, maybe you have autoimmune disorders and you're watching, instead of just giving up and just, going with the status quo, why don't you try to find some things that are wrong? Find the hidden infection. Find out what's wrong. Look in the system. There's always an answer if you'll continue to look. Then when you find it, you can treat it. And when you treat it, you'll get usually a pretty immediate response and you start to see things changing. So autoimmunity is nothing more than just understanding what's in the body. Sometimes it can come from toxicity. You can be exposed to heavy metals. You can be exposed to different chemicals. They can wreak havoc in the system, cause an immune response, and cause that same havoc, and then autoimmune responses can ensue from that. There's all sorts of things that can stimulate, or watch this, they can even be intertwined. Maybe it's not just a hidden infection. Maybe it's that, and you got exposed to some chemicals, and you got exposed maybe, to a heavy metal in this case. So you have to search for it. And one thing I want to just tell you, in the book, I gave you a very good way to do a nebulization. How many people know what nebulizers are? They make fog, basically. And we show you how to use, like you can use colloidal silver, you can use nascent iodines, and you can breathe those in, and it goes in those membranes and destroys those fungal microbes, destroys those organisms down deep in the lungs sometimes. And when doing that, you improve your immunity, you get rid of the hidden infection so the body can stop fighting itself. It's all in there. Be glad to walk it through you if you read the book, because remember, if you can stop the cause, you can stop the pain.
Let me tell you about this little medical word called mitochondria. They're considered to be the powerhouse of the cells, and in other words, little energy plants within the cells that give them the energy to provide functions needed to keep them alive and healthy. Without mitochondria, we simply couldn't survive. We would simply power down and stop functioning. Picture a power plant making energy and sending plenty of that energy to homes to ensure that each household could live normal and comfortable lives. Now, let's say you have hundreds and even thousands of them running homes of entire cities, counties, and let's say even states. So what if a storm blew in and destroyed some of those power plants? Would that change how those households function throughout the day? Look at what happens when hurricanes or tornadoes knock the power out of cities. What happens to the people? They go into survival mode. They don't have enough energy, so they have ceased some of their normal day-to-day activities, and they prioritize and focus only on the most crucial tasks. That's exactly what happens in the body when the mitochondria and the other metabolic organs get damaged or destroyed. You get power outages. The body's energy levels begin to drop. This can create some pretty devastating consequences, to include things like excruciating pain and inflammation, arthritis, migraine, and even anxiety and depression. The good news is the mitochondria can repair. This process is called mitochondrial biogenesis, and it can be defined as the growth and division of pre-existing mitochondria. That's right, they actually have their own genome and can auto-replicate. Reactivating and maintaining mitochondrial function should be a top priority for anyone who's been suffering from debilitating pain and they can't seem to recover. Watch as I walk you through the process of how to reactivate the mitochondria and get the power turned back on. When you turn on the power, you stop the pain.
So let's talk about energy. How does your body make energy? Well, we know that you eat food and food converts it to energy, but what actually makes the production? Where is it produced? There's organelles in the cells that are called mitochondria. And they're basically the powerhouse of those cells, little power plants. So if you can imagine that if you were trying to make energy, all of these little plants in the cells would have to work, and they would have to work at their optimal function. Every cell in the body contains these mitochondria. These cells are constantly making energy. So as long as the mitochondria are working effectively in any given area, that area has a lot of energy, because there's a lot of things going on. How many people know you have a lot going on in your own household? You have to have energy to make that household run. Think of what's going on in a cell. You have to eat, you have to bring stuff in, you have to take debris out, you have to maintain healing, you have to heal the walls, the linings. So it takes energy to do all of those things. And so if you see somebody that has a good mitochondrial function, they move around kind of like I do. They move kind of quick and they're happy and they move around. They typically, they have a good quality of life. If you see people that are real sluggish and they're just kind of hurting all the time, or they're sore all the time, or they just don't have good energy, you know there's probably some mitochondrial issues going on. So it's good to understand that even exists, mitochondria exist, and to understand how does the mitochondria work? How do we get energy to the body? It's not just as simple as saying, hey, take this and all your problems go away. You have to understand that in the body, things work together. You have things called adrenal glands. They sit on top of your kidneys. And they make neurochemicals that give you energy. And they stimulate hormone systems to bring balance to your hormones. How many people know hormone balance is important? And I don't mean just I'm talking about sexual hormones as well. Men, do not look at your wives right now. Yes, because you can have energy problems that can lead to hormone problems. Watch this, then your hormone problems lead to energy problems. See, one can imbalance the other, and you get caught in these vicious cycles. So sometimes you're trying to give the body hormones when really it just needs energy. Sometimes you're trying to fix something in the body when all it needs is just a little more energy. It didn't have enough energy to do the job. Now, with that as well is a thyroid. The thyroid is the organ that really generates energy, and these are all talking to each other at any given time, at any point in time. Now, watch this. If you get irritations in the body, and you have problems in the body, like sensitivity reactions in the gut, or you have something wrong in the gut, you have an imbalance of bacteria in the gut or something, or you have an inflamed gut or something like this, well, then those processes can all cause problems even for the thyroid. Number one, you're not absorbing properly. If you have sensitivity reactions, that means you're having immune responses, and the thyroid's filtering the blood all day, so guess one of the first ones that gets attacked is the thyroid. So you get things like Hashimoto's thyroid, underactive thyroid. It's one of the most common things going right now. Now watch this. When the thyroid gets sluggish, or if it gets underactive, one of the first things it does is slows digestion. Constipation, slow peristalsis through the bowel. So can you see that self-fulfilling vicious cycle? The thyroid not being active slows it down, but a slowed digestion also makes the thyroid slow. So it's awful. So what it takes is you got to get these wheels turning again. You got to get things moving in there again. And the mitochondria, they require certain nutrients, and if you're not absorbing your nutrients, guess what? Your mitochondria aren't working. You can't get the power plants working. So in the book, I go painstakingly, we walk you through the protocols on exactly how to walk through and exactly what you do to get those little power plants moving again. If the power plants start moving, thyroid starts moving. Thyroid starts moving, metabolism starts moving. Come on, how many people are just walking around and you're saying, I'm not doing anything different, and all of a sudden I'm picking up extra weight, a little spare tire around here. And then watch this, when you get that spare tire, we call it an estrogen factory. It's just storing estrogen because estrogen's a fat-laying hormone. So it just feeds itself, and it's like you were feeling good, you looked fit, and all of a sudden you haven't done anything different. It's 2 years later, and all of a sudden you've gained 20 pounds and you feel like you can hardly get up in the morning. I wonder how many people I'm talking to right now that are watching. Yeah, you wake up every day and you just feel like you got pumpkin head and you're just sliding off your pillow and just staggering down the hall in for a cup of coffee and a shower, right? When all you need is some energy. If we can go through the protocols that I talk about in the book, and you can get the mitochondria working more efficiently, how would you like to have more energy? How would you like to have a faster metabolism? Then all that you're carrying around could be used for fuel, and you don't think that would make you more efficient? Watch this, you would heal faster, you would move better. And the pain, when people don't have energy, they hurt, their joints hurt, nothing can heal. If you don't heal, then you're tearing down faster than you can heal. We call that sickness, we call it pain, we call it disease. So if we get the energy moving, we heal better, and the whole body gets better. So the protocol is the mitochondrial recovery protocol. If you restore the mitochondria, simple, you stop the pain.